system. The fair and unbiased
Yeah, okay.
artisan
See,
justice
see,
system.
now he's talking ridiculous.
Yeah.
He's being sarcastic. Don't listen
Yeah,
to
don't
him.
be.
Again,
Yeah,
depends
I
on
can
which
use
country
big words
you're
too.
in.
Facetious. Okay.
Yeah, that's the best word for it.
That's
You
the best
hit it
word
right
for
there.
it. So
I can't believe he just said that out loud.
Some
just
countries have got better legal systems than
Yeah,
others.
right.
all right. We heard enough.
See, now he's gone just way
You want to run your
overboard.
test off?
He's gone way overboard now.
Why do you think a lot of defamation occur in the UK compared to the US? Because it's easier to, even if you are defamed as a US citizen on US territory, it's easier to bring those defamation cases to the UK legal system.
Well, defamation is really important to the English. Like, you guys really, really worry about how much, you know what I'm saying? Like, you guys really worry about what people say about you and things of that nature. Here in the United States, people just don't give a shit. You can talk all the smack you want and just don't freaking try to steal their shit, you know what I mean? You go and try to steal somebody's shit, and then it's on like Donkey Kong, you know. But don't go freaking. I mean, just run your mouth, you know what I mean. We don't care. It's okay.
Yeah, because eventually you'll run. You'll do like the left is right now and work yourself right into a hole, anyways, right?
Pretty much.
Potentially.
Yeah, unless you have money. Okay, there's a difference. You can always buy your way out.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. No.
That does sound like the
There's
US
always a
legal
catch.
system, actually.
And there's always a catch. You
Also-
either have money, made a deal with the devil, or or something similar. All right.
All
The
right.
deal went down. All right.
So, I do have this up and ready to go. I've got coffee ready. I believe we got
coffee.
I can't talk my daughters into making coffee for me. I'll probably during the break I'll make extra or something. But they're just
No,
they call it dirty bean water.
they call it oh, they call it
They
coffee.
call it dirty bean water.
That's horrible. Oh my goodness, just horrible. I swear.
Kids these days, I tell you,
Yeah, I know. Isn't that insane? It's like, come
Yeah.
on, dude.
Who would have thought? Like
Like-
dirty bean water, right?
The world is
Coffee.
that's all. I mean, that's it. You know.
Drinking some orange juice at the moment, so
My roommate's Mexican. She says, "There's nothing dirty about coffee." No, because it's sterile because it's got a boil to perk.
Yeah. See, it's like end of subject.
actually, it's bad if you boil water for actual coffee.
See, this is
It should be a couple of degrees lower than boiling points.
I don't know. I like.
be about 90 degrees centigrade.
I don't like my coffee unless I grind my own beans.
Yeah, same
Have
here.
a little Mexican guy, not Mexican guy, but Venezuelan guy or Colombian dude coming down the mountain with this donkey and bring the beans to me in a big sack so we can dry them outside the backyard because the heat here in Texas is damn hot, all right? So we can dry them out pretty freaking fast here. And then I can grind them up in the blender or in a coffee grinder, then throw them in the percolator, and 15 minutes later, I have coffee after I get the water going. Yeah. But it sounds like a lot of work, but believe me, the taste is all worth it. All right.
I'm just really surprised that you believe there's
You
a
know,
little
like-
Mexican guy with a donkey, though. I mean, it's like-
Yeah.
No, he's Colombian or Venezuelan, because that's where the best coffee comes from.
oh,
right.
okay.
You know, but not
Actually,
no.
I'm trying a
Mistaking it
Japanese.
for other bags.
I'm trying a Japanese manufacturer at the moment.
Sometimes when you mess up, you
Don't get excited, guys.
that's how we get them over. That's how they come in. You know, bringing the coffee back across the all the other stuff that the Chinese are giving them to bring across. You know, in the stuff from Ecuador and Peru. You know,
Mhm.
the white baggies. Now, don't
This
put
this
that
stuff is actually
in the-
produced in China,
I
in
don't care how
Japan.
much grind it. Do not put that in a coffee pot. That will mess you up really bad. Don't do it.
Crafted by our Japanese masters. So, well, it's produced in Japan. It doesn't mean it's grown in Japan.
I don't know if you all knew, but I used to be the Pope of the Church of Java at one time. Yeah.
Yeah. See, you just I
I opened my book up, and I took I would take a chapter and a verse out of the book of Maxwell House,
just the book of Maxwell.
who was written by Apostle Folgers, and it will enlighten you.
I agree.
Maxwell House and Nescafe are the siblings of the devil.
Now, if you do put it in the blender and you get it too fine, make sure that it's Nescafe, and then you can put it in lines and snort it up, and it'll work just fine. All right.
That's,
I don't recommend doing that all the time, though. All right, because you will get nosebleeds. Not that I know, but anyway.
I don't even know what to say about that shit, to be honest.
No, 8 pots of coffee a day, pretty close. When they
cups, do they?
when they take and embalm me, they're gonna find more coffee in my veins than blood.
Generally speaking, I would say the same. But I just realised I've only had 3 cups all day.
Okay, so
Well,
I
used to have used to have a lot.
I'm gonna hold off on doing anything with Odyssey at the moment. I can do that upload on the backup video port. That everything on there is acting strange.
Have you given up on D Live?
No, I'm giving up.
Have you given up on D Live?
Yeah, that platform's
Right,
useless. It's horrible. It's like amalgamated version of frickin' like Twitch, you know what I mean? it's just
I get a little twitchy when I'm on Twitch.
I'm using Twitch, don't get me wrong, but I'm doing it against my own free will.
Why?
Well,
Why would anyone use Twitch these days? Isn't that just for game and make-up sessions?
well they do have
Or advertising?
They have gone further with that, but my issue with them is I don't like the idea of my videos being deleted after 7 days.
Well,
You know.
Well, what do you think about Kick?
Well, that's something that I have an issue with too. That's why I don't do.
Actually, I did
I
review
did
Kick's terms of services. I did review Kick's terms of services last year, and I was not impressed with them at all. I can't remember
I'm
why.
impressed with how many people I get into a Kick chat room over all the other platforms outside of Rumble.
What about have you tried what's the other one? Freaking TikTok?
No, I will not do TikTok.
Okay.
I'm, uh, the Chinese know enough about me.
So
Still, there's a big audience on
because
TikTok.
an American guy by the name of Mark Zuckerberg sells it to them.
okay, so I got everything as far as I can hooked up, and it's ready to go. So now, like I said, I'm gonna do the recording and stuff as well as do all of this. I believe I shared it on X as well, so the interview is going to be on X too. I went ahead and shared the live stream link to it, and we should be set up and ready to go. I've got it on YouTube, and I got it on Rumble, and I got it on Twitch, and I'll have it up on Odyssey after the interview is done, so we're good to go. Now I'm gonna do the countdown, and we'll get started. Let's do a voice check real quick. Make sure you guys sound good.
Check 2, 3, 4, 5.
Mark sounds good. How about you, Mark?
Mary had a little lamb.
Okay. Now, do I sound good?
Yep.
Okay. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Now. Hello everybody, and welcome back to Tech Talk. Today is a special event. We just had our show, but now we are going to do an interview with Mark Wojtazsek from
Wojtazsek.
Wojtazsek. Okay, there we go. That's better. I got closer this time. From Dragus Productions. That's the name that he really thinks it should be pronounced and said better, because that's the name he wants put out there, which is Dragus, right?
Right.
Okay, Dragus Production, and I've been studying that all day so I can get it right. I even asked Mark before this ahead of time how to say it, so him and Tan, I've got to give them shout outs for doing that. They did great. So today, like I said, is going to be pretty cool because Mark has his own production company, and it's called Dragus Production, and we want to get him on here to kind of go over, his career in radio, and that's what I think we should get your take on is, how did you have to go by getting into radio, some of the obstacles you went through, the things you've learned, and the mistakes you've made, stuff of that nature. So with that, I want to open it up to you and let you introduce yourself and give yourself a background and just go into it, and we can get started there.
All right. Well, I'm Mark Wojtazsek, known as Dragus Productions, or Dragus. I've been doing radio, and I started out doing internet radio probably about 17 years ago, all right? And before I did that, I'm a disabled Air Force veteran, all right? And I got lots of kids. So I've done a lot of things, but I've always been interested in radio. Even when I was a little kid, I'd listen to, the DJs in the morning, and then I always liked listening to Art Bell doing, Coast to Coast at night, when my parents weren't letting me, thinking I was asleep and stuff like that. I'd listen to Art, and it always caught me as something that was really interesting to do, and I didn't really get into it until I started listening to internet radio. I started doing that because I was interested in paranormal shows at the time. So I kept giving all these suggestions to the owner about, you should do this for this show, and get this for a show and do that. He goes, put up or shut up. Make yourself, here's what you need to do it. And do your own show. So the very first show I ever done was called Paranormal Parodies. It through Para X Radio, and Para X is still around, but it's not owned by the same people. And it used to be a CBS affiliate. I don't know if it is anymore or not. I don't keep up with that. But we did Paranormal Parodies, which was a comedy show. And a bunch of my friends and I got together throughout the week, and we'd throw a show together with stuff about Bigfoot selling hot dogs and hamburgers, or to the dog man bringing them across the border, as contraband and things like that, and how Bigfoot was addicted to hot dogs after a while. So, and then I did a lot of other little shows, but yeah, I mean, I've had so many shows. And helped produce for other people that came and gone. I still produce 4 shows. I used to produce more. I used to produce I produced every day of the week. I did probably for about a year and a half. I did a 65-hour work week, basically, as a hobby, which hurt my marriage. But as a disabled vet, I don't get out much. So there are some drawbacks with that. And then, after I left Para X, we went into, and with another friend who had a station, and I ran his station, along with being on learning in between there. I was on other stations before that, in between there. One big one was Be More Radio, which is no longer around. They had, I think, 27 radio stations, and they were part of the Baltimore School of Broadcasting. And I used to teach all the people coming in how to do radio, make sure they take their breaks and things like that, management stuff. Because they taught me how to do that, and my deal to be on their stations and that was to make sure that I teach them, so that if I did that, I could stay on their stations. So I did that, and then later on, I've done all sorts of other things. I got tired of being on one station at one time, so and being always on a thread, the station will say, you can't do this, you can't do that. Kind of like platforms are with people now. They would get in a way that the stations would be heavily influenced by their backers, which would be like, ABC or CBS, who would own them, or they would pay royalties to them to get their logo put on their stations and things like that. So I decided to just go independent and use Dragus Productions as that. And I've hosted my own shows for years, 10 years. I ran a pretty successful show called the Cafe Enigma, which we'd take clips from In Search Of and Cosmos and then talk about it in a round table. And then I kind of revamped it later on because I needed another show and brought in a couple new hosts, and it's not going as well as I wanted to. And there's going to be some big changes here real soon on that show. And that show is going to be called Well, it's called the all new Cafe Enigma. But I picked up. I do variety. I don't do just paranormal. We do a lot of political talk, comedy skits in some of the shows. There's some science talk in some of the shows that I have as well. So, but it's really hard when you come from like a paranormal beginning in that to get out of that. So, I think the biggest challenge was time for me. You know, I had to learn to cut back it, because quality. I've always been a stickler for quality, and I wanted the very best for anything that I put out. And I wasn't getting that doing 60-hour plus and running everybody else's shows for them at their leisure. You know, well, you know, things at home weren't all that great. But things are a lot better now. I've only got four shows now.
There you go.
I only stream twice a week, so that cuts down on a lot of hassle. And I don't host shows anymore. I have other people that I rely on to do that.
Now, when you were talking about that before, you've mentioned that to me before outside of this stream. So I kind of want to ask you in the interview, what's the thing? What's behind that? Why is it that you want other people to do your shows instead of you doing your show on your own?
Well, to produce,
yeah,
and to host is a real pain in the butt to me. All right, I don't mind being interviewed. I don't mind coming in and being part of a panel. Mm-hmm. That's never. I don't like doing the prep work, especially if I'm gonna. Here's the deal. Okay, for me, I've got it down to a science where for every hour on air, it's 1 hour before and it's 1 hour after for each hour on air to do a show. So that's 3 hours for every 1 hour of live time for me. All right, to do it the way I do it, and that's regardless if I use audio or if I use video. And if I was just doing audio anymore, I would even add probably another 2 or 3 hours on, or no, I would probably add on to that probably about another 15 hours per show, not hour, but per show for advertising that I would put in. So that's a lot of time, and that takes a lot of time from family and your home, and if to do it the way you want to do, the way I want to do it, it takes that kind of time to do it. And I edit everything. There's nothing, anything that I put up unless it says raw at the end is edited, and that means I spent time on it.
That was a good answer, right? That's kind of what I was talking about, like what I really want to hear from you when it comes to your radio career, because I think that's what people really need to know when it comes to radio broadcasting, that it's not just you getting on and talking, because I've had this conversation with another guy where he thinks that all you got to do is get on frickin' your show and just run your mouth for an hour and everything's good, you know what I mean? And don't worry about all that editing or anything of that nature. And
yeah, well, I know people that are like that and still do that. And some of their shows are okay, but they're when I listen to them, I listen to when I listen to radio or I listen to podcasts and I listen to other shows and things like that. I look at it technically. Okay, they took too long for a break between sentences or between words. Anytime you're not talking is time lost on radio. All right, anytime it's not filled, anytime you have problems technically, those challenges always have to be met. And you have to be flexible to make sure that those are fixed or you work with them. All right?
Something I've noticed most during all this streaming stuff is that because the sort of subject matter that me and Roger tend to talk about on the Tech Talk and the Wednesday stream, quite a lot of research can go in beforehand, which could take hours in itself. But
Right.
also, issues such as technical issues. I mean, we've had times when we've had sound issues, and that can break off the momentum.
Well, everybody has to remember, too, that most of us run off of one computer through either cable or fiber optics through our home. We're not sitting in a studio like Art Bell used to, or with a team of techs behind him, and a person handling his calls. No, we do it all. And when I hosted my own shows, I did all my calls. I did all my edits. I did all my pre-show, my after-show, everything. And that's very time-consuming. And I did that for 10 years with that one show. And, I was really, but before I even get to that, when I did that show, before I even got that show together, I took a year and a half, drew out what I wanted from it before I even put it on air or put it out as a concept. I took it and I said, what do I want? And I said, I wanted something that did this, this, and this. All right. What was my goal with that? To get this, this, and that. How was I going to achieve it? And I had it all mapped out before I even put it out, and that's why the show was successful.
It's, I would say, you need to be fairly technical minded to be able to organise yourself. But again, it's mainly down to good organisational practices, creating some sort of processes to aid you in that organisation.
Exactly. And along with that, that's why I have the hosts do the topics. I never choose the topics. I might steer them towards a general area, especially the one show. But all my other shows, it's on the host. The only thing I do is the tech issues, the getting them on, off the air, the breaks, make sure that's done. I make sure that all the after work is done for the cleanup, and they don't have to worry about that. So they can worry about the next show that they do and start working on that immediately. And that's another thing that makes it nice doing just production work. Now, it's okay to talk and it's okay to, host. But, if I was going to host again, I would probably have someone else do it, but I wouldn't feel comfortable because, I've done it so long. It wouldn't be done the way I want it. So that's why I haven't done it again. And I do jump in from time to time, and I'll take over, a show to fill in for a host when they're out. Because I've done it before. I've done it enough times. I have enough experience. I can jump right in there. I pretty much know about the show, what it's going to do, because I produced the show. All right? If I don't know what's going on in the show, there's a problem. I might not know the guests that they have, but even if you're a good host, okay, if you're a good host, you don't you don't control the conversation when you're doing a really good show. The guest does. You just kind of steer them. Well, can you talk about this? And then you just let them roll. Can you talk about that? And then you can let them roll. But before you even do any of that, and before you even get them on the air, is there anything that's off limits? I can't say this. I have an NDA. I can't say that because of this. I won't talk about this because of that. And once you get that all cleaned and cleared, you can, pretty much, have really good interviews with just about anybody that's a good talker if they're a good guest.
Now, see, that's something that even people that do shows with me, Mark has a hard time understanding this, and so does Tan. Like, whenever I talk about them guys, I tell them all the time, I'm like, look, man, I don't do anything. All I do is I sit here and I freaking make sure that the stream goes through, but, like, you guys are the show, you know what I mean?
I don't know, on the tech talk, you always come up with an opening sort of theme.
Well, I mean, the whole point though is like you guys bring it to the show. It's not really me. I just open the show up. I say hello, and then I do bring topics up too. But like you guys actually do it, and it's like even with Bob Dub and with Summer Todd, they were the show. They're the ones who actually brought everything in, and like guests whenever you do that's what it was. And it was like you were saying, Mark,
that's production right there.
And it's like freaking I just make sure the video goes through, and that's it, you know what I mean?
For me, I have a lot more bells and whistles that I gotta go through, because I have to make sure that I'm FCC compliant. All right. No one says anything that they're not supposed to, language-wise. Now, that's debatable on a lot of places these days. And if you go and listen to a lot of radio stations, they're doing a lot of things that weren't the norm. All right. But the stations that I go through are kind of hardcore 70s, 80s, old-time style radios through the internet that, get picked up by terrestrial because of that. We get picked up because we run a tight ship. All right. And they know, and it's not Disney like, all right, because you've heard a lot of my shows. Some of you guys have been on some of my shows. They can get heated, all right, and they can carry on, but they know how to push the limits too, and that's a good thing about the host too. And if I did all my shows myself, all right, how many people would get tired of listening to my voice? All right, people like variety, and when John comes on to do Censorship Sucks, all right, he's a young guy, comes off as like a young Hannity type guy in a way. So people, go towards that because of that. He's got it also helps when you take and look for your demographics, all right? And if you're starting out in radio, don't worry about demographics, all right? Don't worry about them unless the studio that you're going through specifically is geared towards a certain demographic age and gender or whatever, all right, or area, all right? Otherwise, don't worry about it. Same with numbers. They come and go. People come and go. But if they like you, and they'll come back. Even if they don't like you, sometimes they'll come back to see if things have changed. All right, and then then you have the favorites. I don't care if they come in and troll, even on the radio. All right, I like radio trolls because they don't take and they can't do anything to me or say anything to me because it's one-way communication from my guys through me out. Video is a little different. You get a chat room. Some of the internet stations still have chat rooms. Some of them don't. Most of them, that do, if they don't get the time of day. All right, if you troll, but I don't mind because that's a number. Every number counts.
Yeah.
Good,
I was going
plus,
to say,
plus or negative. So long as they're in there, it counts as a plus to you.
Okay.
I was going to say, as would you know, I talk about demographics and audience numbers all the time, especially because we go from one platform to a different platform, and we've got several different platforms now. So yeah, I'm always in mind of the demographics and audience numbers.
Well, you should never be worried about numbers. Ever. Never. I could take and stream to a couple platforms, and even if they don't get any numbers at all, I'm there. And then they come back later, and listen to the after show or the recording from it, and I still get a number from that. I'm not, there's hits. There's different ways for people to get hits. All right, in radio these days, okay, it costs a lot of money to get demographics. I'm not gonna lie to you. All right, it takes a lot of money. Some stations, especially independent stations, don't even collect demographics unless it's only for their advertisers. Okay, that's the only time that they really collect the demographics, because that's the only thing that counts. Your show doesn't count on radio. Okay, you know what counts on radio? Advertising. Why? That's how they get paid.
The show's only a vehicle for the advertisement.
Yeah, we are the cream. We are the top of the cream, but they're there for the sugar, So, and if you have a good show that brings in for those advertisers during those advertiser slots, hey, that's a good thing for the advertisers and the stations, and they keep you.
Now, since we were able to get you up to 26 minutes, I want to dive a little bit deeper here. Okay. Now, when it comes to your radio career, okay?
Okay.
The one thing I think that viewers would love to hear is like the technical part of how you actually got into radio and what you had to do in order to get into radio.
Yeah, it was really something. At first, I started out doing splice and dice with Para X, creating and putting up once a week a show called Paranormal Parodies, and it was a group of us. There was probably about 5 to 10 of us in the group. The core of us was 4 people. All right. Me and Mike did all the technical work, and all the other guys were just jokers. All right. They'd come up with the lines, and if we thought it was funny, it would go on the air that week. And I would splice and dice and put it together. And then once I got established with the station, I was asked to do other shows. I did a show right after not long after that called Quantum Alliance, which was a group of psychics that did call-ins and things like that back in the day when psychics were, the thing. All right. As we all know, when you deal with paranormal, you deal with cycles. One cycle is psychics and demonologists. Another cycle is cryptozoologists. Another cycle is UFOs. Another cycle is conspiracy. But you know something? Conspiracy never ever goes away. So it, out of all of them, it will always be an underlying tone, even within all the other fields of that. And there's some subfields with that too.
Yeah,
So,
I've had dealings with all that.
Yeah.
And you're right. When it comes to the conspiracy, it's like you'll never see conspiracy die away, and it just seems to be that freaking one part of all of the paranormal stuff that just keeps rotting away in the background. You know what I mean? It's like,
well,
Again, you've got to be careful.
what
You've got to be careful about conspiracies, because one conspiracy theory could become a conspiracy fact.
Yeah, exactly. So you have it in all of them. There's a conspiracy that we already know about psychics and this, that, and the other, because our government and other governments have used psychics and that, so they know it works, and also big businesses use them too, and so okay, there's some things about that, all right, and then you go into the secret programs with that, and then that goes into, oh wow, I stumbled upon Secret Space Force and all these other things, and by the way, we knew about giants and Bigfoot for ages because the government is in some samples, that they've even sent to the UK. So, and then the UFOs. How can you miss a UFO? It comes down and does this, that, and the other, and then you got them all mixed through. And when I say mixed through, I said because then aliens and demons can do pretty much the same thing at times. Take your body over, blah blah blah, this, that, and the other, and it's like, okay, no, those aren't demons, those are aliens. No, they're not aliens, they're demons. So the conspiracy goes on within the conspiracy in those fields too. So yeah, but that gets old after a while too.
So now that we've gotten through the fun part, let's just remember that this is a tech show, even though that's cool. Now hold on, no, let me ask you an important question about that, which is because you're a producer, okay?
Okay.
And I've had to deal with this too, but I just want your take on this. Now, when you have information like that you have to deal with and you have to process on a daily basis, and then you're wanting to get into like other topics because you said you're into variety, how do you deal with that emotionally and mentally?
As a producer, okay, I can get up and walk away until I hear someone else talking.
I can sympathize on that one.
When I'm really upset, I can get up and walk away for a few minutes, or mute, or I know pretty much by watching my VU meters what's going on. All right, so I can even mute. I know when my breaks are, and then during those breaks, that's when I can straighten things out or say, hey, we need to change direction, or you guys already talked about this, that topic's old. Let's move on, or I'll message one of the other people, because there's with any of my shows, there's usually more than one person that's involved with it. Okay, there's always more than one, except for one show that I have right now. There's only one host. All right, and that's Jack Carey's Paranormal Intelligence Agency show. And it's not really it's kind of a paranormal show, but it's not really. It's more of a science based show. It really is. He talks about hitchhiker effect and things like that, and Jack is a very logical and theoretical type guy. So he doesn't get into the what. Well, he gets into the what ifs, but he doesn't go out and say Grandma is talking to me and she's been dead for 50 years. It's a totally different type of show than that. But there's always ways to make things move on. Like I am working with one of my hosts, my host right now, to do changes on one of the shows that I've been talking about, and I probably mentioned the name of it before. And because it's not going the direction I want it to go. And I'm going to give it a timeline, because if things don't change within that timeline, the show will either go away and a new one will come in place, or I will, downsize. And that's always an option with me. And that's, and downsizing doesn't mean that I downsize forever. It means that I'll take a break and I'll look for other talent to fill that slot, or a similar type slot to fill in a similar time frame, and I'd work with that host to do that. But before I do that, I'd have to be really, really sure of it too, and I'm really sure of the backup I have for this already, because anytime you produce or do shows and that, whether you have a topic about today or what we're doing today or what you're thinking about doing next week, you need to have at least 2 or 3 others planned on top of that, just in case something comes up that botches that, or you're not able to do it.
All right, now that was actually that was good.
Just to continue, I'm just curious. Do you have a set season episode sort of lineup? So you've got, let's say you plan to do 2 seasons. Each season has 23 episodes.
No, it's not like TV. Radio doesn't work like TV.
Right.
Radio is continuous, and it's all about continuity. All right? Just like Rush Limbaugh. He'd been harping about the same damn thing since he started on air until he died on air. All right? All shows on radio are like that. There's not, okay, after 12 episodes, we're done. And then we take a break and we come back and do something different. No. It's continuous. And it's always evolving if you let the show evolve. Now, if you really want to hear some really good stuff, you'll listen to some of the first episodes of Censorship Sucks Roundtable Radio Show, which was one of my newer shows. We've been on there for about 4 or 5 years now, something like that. But when they first came on, they were rough, and they really some of the people that are there now weren't there in the beginning, but the core people are still there.
In fact, if I remember correctly, I actually appeared on one of the earlier episodes myself.
Yeah, the show always evolves, and that's great. And it evolved from a 2-hour Sunday night show to a 2-hour plus a 2-hour interview show on Wednesday night, up to a 3-hour show for a temporary period of time until I got Jack on with me doing Paranormal Intelligence. Because 3 hours of radio is a bear if you're not getting paid, and that's all you're doing. All right? None of my hosts get paid for what they do. All right? The contributions that we do. We all do this because we love it. All right? The only time that now, if they ever wanted to get paid, the only way that they could ever get paid is because me and the host themselves have the rights to the show. All right, because the names are trademarked, and we could take and they could take and put that up on a website and sell it that way. And that's, if you do internet radio, that's how you get paid. You get, even on internet radio, you get paid by ads. You don't get paid by, just because you did a show, this, that, and the other. Hey, these guys do a lot of work. They've done a lot of hours for me over the years. I've done more than any of them, and I've never got a dime out of any of it, but I love doing it, and I love helping people that want to do this get out. And that's how it gets done. And everything that I can do, we can kind of shortcut a regular radio station with a lot of things, because number one, they don't have to have a person there to do the show. They just have to set their broadcaster up to connect to our stream at a specific time, because I know when they connect to me that those breaks are going to be taken at specific times as well. And they can click in and out during those time frames to put their own ads and that in, and they get paid for that.
Something I really like about how you handled your other show that I've appeared on a few times now, the all new cafe, is when is that you actually do make an announcement or a text-based announcement 3 minutes before you go and take a break, and you've actually organised that. You've actually set that as a sort of procedure.
Well, because of numbers with that show, I could have that half hour of pre-show that we have for them could be part of their show, but they don't have the numbers to take and add into that for those. And I've been working really hard to take and get those numbers up to where that they get that now. But they've actually slid to a point where they may lose an hour. So on that particular show. But other than that, I don't mind talking about this, because people are going to see changes here real soon, and if they if they're blind to it, it's their own fault because they didn't see it coming, because I've been saying this for a while. So, but I've actually put a date on this now. So something's got to happen by the end of this month, because this is in radio, you don't get as many listeners as during the summertime, for this, especially with the independents, as you do in the wintertime for some reason. It has something to do with school being off and things like that. The demographics for the age changes too for the summer. So you only get like really hardcore older people listening in the summertime on radio side. In the wintertime, sometimes people are snowbound or weatherbound, that they can't go anywhere, and they find you, and they're like, oh, okay, let's listen to this. Oh, I'll come back and listen to this more. But when it warms up and you're doing more things outside and you're not tuned in because there's more activities outside to do, you're not going to get as much. And that was explained to me back when I was working with Be More Radio. That was back in 2018. Yeah.
Now, when it comes to scheduling and stuff like that, I've had to deal with that with videos and everything too. and I can relate to you on that. Now, one thing that I did want to go over with you on about is, like, you mentioned the FCC.
Yeah.
And what are some of the requirements that you have to go through in order to get approved by the FCC? And you were also talking, what was it called? Your transponder, I guess you called it, for.
Well, the big thing from on my side is language. And George Carlin said the 7 words. All right, those are the 7 words you can't say on the radio or TV. Right? Where I'm at, that still holds true. All right, so that's the biggest thing. All right, and then you get into you have to watch people about defamation, and you also have to watch people for if they do have an NDA and they told you that ahead of time. All right, but you have someone coming in that in between that wasn't notified about that and asks, and then you might not get that guest ever back again, and then the stations that you're on could also be sued by that, if it goes out on air, and it wasn't on a break. So they have to be really careful about that. It's all 90% of the FCC stuff is language and liability. All right, the 2 L's. And if you can get past that, you're good to go. All the stations that I am currently with are also licensed for music, so I'm not worried about those kind of problems. All right, and I'm covered under them. As long as I'm with that station, using that station, I'm covered under them for that.
Now, see, that was kind of what I was leaning towards, because that's something that a lot of people in radio don't have to deal with, that a lot of people who are into streaming and making their own podcasts and stuff do have to deal with. You know what I mean? You got the protection of the radio company that you're working through that's licensed with music. And I think that's interesting. And then I also wanted to mention it because Mark Edworthy, this is where he loves it. He sits up late at night just reading.
This is my biggest thing about video. All right, every radio station can be licensed, and anybody that's on that station that uses them, that's connected to them, is covered under that license. Why the hell? I'm sorry. Why can't? And it should be the same no matter what type of broadcast you make, whether it's a radio or video. That those licensing like that should be the same. So, and it should not cost. And each one of those companies can make deals, because all it takes is to get those lawyers together. Call up BMI's lawyers, call up ASCAP lawyers, call up the other companies that take that stuff, into consideration in that. Call up their lawyers, cut a deal. That's all it takes, and everybody's fine with playing whatever they want on the radio at any time. But they won't do it. Why? Because none of them want to get together and have the lawyers talk, because they're too interested in either getting you off a platform, or B, upgrading their platform or some API or other little thing behind to make things look nicer. But if you did that, can you imagine, how many great artists you could have being on a platform and that doing more of their own, music, and then having folks like me or you or anybody else say, hey, we know about this. We're not selling it. All right. We don't have the rights to this, but because I'm playing this, they're going to get, credit for that, because You know, it's already that's already been agreed upon and taken care of, just like a radio station.
I suppose at the end of the day, it's down to competition, really.
It would only take one platform to do it, and the rest would fall in line. One. Believe me, if Kick, Twitch, YouTube, Odyssey, Rumble, Facebook, any of them would do that. The only thing that I can think of is they're getting huge kickbacks from those companies to do this, for because then they can sick their legal dogs upon the helpless people that we are. Oh yeah.
Mm.
Oh, here's something that's not talked about a lot either. All those little sound effects,
Mm-hmm.
they're copyrighted.
Oh, some of them are. Some of them can be
Oh,
copied
a
left, sort of.
majority of them are right now. You have to be very okay. Hanna Barbera is owned by who now? Disney. Uh, if you have like any of the Sony sound effects, Sony owns that. All right. If you have any of the sound effects from Paramount, who owns that? Paramount. So they're all copywritten. So you have to be careful even with a sound effect, and a sound effect can be
There
anywhere
is
between a second to whatever. You know.
there is content that is copied left that may come as a Creative Commons license, which, depending on the license agreement specifics, could be reused. But
There's a big challenge going on right now with music and stuff like sound effects and things like that using AI, and they're trying to clamp down on that and have it tagged as well. Okay, big mistake. Never take on more than what you can take on. All right, and but learn from it. All right, if you start out with one or two shows, that's great, and if you feel comfortable, you can add more. But if you start to feel bogged down, don't feel bad about cutting back. Don't. It's okay to cut back. Your sole goal is quality, not quantity. All right. If you can do quality and quantity, that's great. Don't get burned out. It's easy to get burned out because putting a lot of time in takes a lot of time away from other areas in your life that you may need and you may look back on. I would say that that was probably my biggest one. The next thing is drama. If you have problems with hosts or if you have problems with guests, that bring up drama, and you don't. That's one thing you don't want to deal with, because once you start dealing with it, it's like a cancer. It will eat through. If you have more than one show, it'll start eating from one show to the next and the next. Because if you're a good producer and you or you're a good host and you do multiple shows, you let that'll bleed into other areas. All right, each of the other shows in that it will bleed in. So if you have that, get rid of it quickly. Uh, if you have an opinion, it's okay to keep it to yourself, you know? But it's okay to say no. I've there have been lots of shows that have come to me and say, "I want you to produce me," blah blah blah, this, that, and the other, and I'm like, I looked at it and like, no, that's not what I do. That's not what I want, and that's not what my label is about. I will not touch that with 100-foot pole or even longer. And there's others that I really, really would like, and sometimes they take years to get. It takes time. Nothing's built in a day. If you really, it, when you do radio, think about it as building Rome from scratch. When the Greeks had it, all right. So you may set up a good foundation, but you're going to learn that as you grow, you can get bigger. Some parts will crumble here and there, but you have people and you'll have things in place if you plan and do things right. Just set them back up, all right, and put it back in place, or take the building down and put a new one up. There's nothing wrong with that, all right, because it's all about progress. Don't let regression stop you from progress. You can cut that out and add something new in. I've talked about recent problems and issues that I have. All right, and there's some solutions that I've thrown out tonight too. Those are just some of the solutions I could use. I could actually go out and say, hey guys, I know you guys do Tech Talk Net and you do a great job with that. How about doing, an hour and a half during this time to this time? Well, and you guys probably come back and say, well, don't you have a show during that time? Not anymore, I'd say, or something like that. Or let's plan on 3 weeks from now. I would, because that's how you always have. Being a producer and being on multiple platforms, multiple stations, you have to be the wheeler dealer and also be the bridge for those stations and platforms and the people that are on them, because they rely on you. They rely on you to bring quality content, and they rely on you to do the best that you can put out.
That actually brings up something that I wanted to mention, because you said your brand. Okay, now when it comes to your brand, kind of define to me what you think a quality brand would be that for yourself. What do you think is quality when it comes to your brand and what you want it to be?
Quality to me means putting out really good shows. Sure, they may have some issues with technical problems in between. All do. There's, with today's technology, nothing always works the way it's supposed to. All right, but we work through it. But the end product that we put out has to be the very best, and meaning as flawless as we can put it out, as well as once it's completed and archived, it needs to sound at least like it came out of a studio. And I really do my best to try to make that happen. Sometimes, due to the technology that we work with, It's not always possible, but most of the time it is possible, and and it's not a probability. It does happen. All right. There's out of all the times, probably this year has probably been my hardest year, and probably about 8-9 years, because I've moved. I got a new studio. Things aren't set up the way the old one was, but the new one seems to be doing better in a lot of respects. I got a lot more room. I have the ability to upgrade now in a way that I didn't before, as well as, I can do, a better product. Once I get, and every little thing helps. And it's not, I've gone probably, since I started, I've gone through probably about 4 computers.
Yeah, I remember when you did your move and everything, and you had a little bad incident there with the tornado.
Yeah, we. That's another thing too. You can do everything you can to get your best quality, best out there, but acts of God are acts of God. All right, you can't do anything about that. But if you have people that are good, that are with you, they'll stay with you to the very end, knowing that. All right, because you've put out other things before, and had worse times before, but still put great stuff out. All right, it's kind of like I look at myself a little bit like Scotty from the Enterprise. Hey, that one came out, of course, Captain. Even though it was only 80%, but what we could put out. The Enterprise,
the
really
old adopted armor, yeah.
Yeah, sure. Probably for 1.9, but
Well, you see, there's a formula that Scotty had that everybody always keeps forgetting, okay? And it's like, if you know that you can freaking do 80%, you tell the captain that you can only do 70%.
60%.
60%.
He was always like,
Yeah.
no, Captain, that ain't gonna work.
Roger, you've worked in tech supports before, I say. It's interesting. As Roger knows, I've gone through something like 4 or 5 microphones within the last 2 years. This being the most recent one, this lapel one, which sounds pretty good in my estimation. But yeah. We've had quite a few audio issues on previous recordings, but not to say that the content itself wasn't bad, because majority of the time the content was good. But yeah, technical issues such as audio can be a nightmare.
Yeah.
Especially if you're radio, because that's everything right there.
Indeed.
See,
I can probably count on both my hands. I don't even need my toes for all the times I've ever had to scrap a show and all the time I've ever been on. Okay, that says something.
Now, with video, it's actually an advantage when it comes to mishaps, because like with Mark, dude, I get some of the best freaking content when his headphones are messing up. But I agree. Like if it was radio, it would be a nightmare. You know what I mean? There's no way that you could turn that into a positive at all.
Yeah, and there are shows that I've had to, like, all right, fine, I just gotta turn everything off. Tonight's not gonna work.
Mm-hmm.
Call everybody up. And it's a very rare thing,
No.
But
what you did that?
Extremely rare. I mean, it's like finding. It would be like finding a stingray in Lake Huron. All right, it's possible because they could come from the sea, and work all the way over to Lake Huron. But
Yeah.
But is it probable? Probably not. But there might be a couple of them in there, and huge.
What was you gonna say, Mark? I heard you make.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking, didn't you have a show something like, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago that you cancelled? Or am I thinking of somebody else there?
Who, me?
No,
Mark.
Mark.
Oh yeah. I had 3 weeks ago. Well, no, it was about a month ago. I was on air, and right as I was on air, the tornado came through and knocked me completely out, and I was out for quite a while. I was out for almost a week. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even when I did come back, my internet was not what it needed to be because even my fiber optics were on the ground. They're not on the ground anymore now. You didn't know if there was a dog or a cat or someone walking on the on the fiber optic outside.
Yeah.
Or if my son wasn't paying attention when he was mowing and just chewed through it with the mower. But no, that didn't happen. But things it probably the biggest thing that you have to worry about is dealing with the tech problems and how to make everything talk to each other. All right, and then once you get that down, and if you don't have an issue, you're good until you get on air, and then you may have some drama issues or something like that. But I've been doing this long enough that I just won't deal with it, or we can fix it ahead of time. But there's some things that are a little bit more deep seated than others that take some special gloves to handle.
Now, since we are on Twitch, the majority of people who actually watch my stuff is actually gamers. So, as somebody who's been in the radio business and is getting into streaming and everything, what advice would you give gamers when it comes to what you've done so far?
Okay. Gaming and radio is a really hard thing to do unless you're going to talk, not be gaming. Okay, you've got to take and have to be talking about the product itself, the designers, anything that had to do with the game. Bring in people that's played the game, interview them as well. That would be a good radio show, to take and do, especially if you did like more than one type of game that you would talk about. Say if you had a weekly show, I would take for instance do Blood Rain. All right, we're gonna talk about Blood Rain, the history of it. How it started, who put it together, and why it was done this way and that way. And then, as a continuation, because there were so many of them, you could go and take and talk about, how they developed the next one for it, and if there was anything that was in between that wasn't, put out to the public, that like insider stuff. Mm-hmm. That's great content for radio, so long as you can take and make sure you get you're on time, you take your breaks when you're supposed to, and that's different, per your agreement with those stations, if you can get it that way, and do that, because I'm going to tell you this: if you do a podcast, radio stations don't want podcasts because you don't leave any room for breaks. All right. If you listen to any good radio station, good radio talk show host, he's going to have like 6 breaks in an hour. But they allow me to take only one in the middle of the hour and one at the top of the hour because of how much time I allow during those. So my breaks are usually, if it's a 1-hour show, it starts at the 25-minute mark, and the show needs to end no later than the 55-minute mark or the 57-minute mark. And I don't mean talking wise. I mean the show actually has to end with the outro by that time. And a lot of people don't understand it. You know, your time, your intro time, your buffer file time. Well, not your buffer file time, but your break time and your end time is all part of your time on. You know, so you only get like 45 minutes to really talk when you do an hour show. 48 if you're doing really good.
Yeah.
All right. Depending on how long your intro, outro, and you have for your break.
See, that's
Right.
that's what I have a hard time with gamers about. Like they like to argue with me about this stuff, and I tell them, look, man, I'm not just giving you my opinion. I learned this when I freaking actually studied it on freaking LinkedIn Learning and shit. You know, they teach you 45 minutes is tops. You don't want to go.
Yeah.
You don't want to go over 45 minutes when it comes to a video because people don't want to hear more than 45 minutes on it.
You can do extended videos like me, but you have to have breaks.
Right. Exactly.
All right, and I do breaks. I do pre-shows. I do breaks. We do all sorts of other little things to separate that from the regular show time to the regular end time of those shows.
Right.
Like even a 2-hour show, at the end of the first hour is the 55-minute mark. The beginning of the second hour is 5 minutes after. That's a 10-minute break. Can you imagine how much money you can make with advertisements doing that?
Yeah.
If you're on a radio station, time is money.
Oh, they've gotten mad at me. They start telling me that it's nonsense that I make 15-minute videos. I'm like, dude, the majority of people on the internet like 15-minute videos. So I make 15-minute videos.
Well, I won't watch anything that's not considered an hour long or more.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Well, you're Mr. Radio, though. I mean.
Yeah, but that I have things that I look for that are a lot different than the normal person does when it comes to airtime.
I was talking to Roger, I think about a week ago, about this, and we agreed that 45 minutes is probably the sweet spot, both for both video and video and long form video content. And going back to the gaming thing, I've been a subscriber of a retro gaming channel, computer channel for YouTube channel for some time now. Granted, it's a slightly different medium because adverts are full stop on you at certain points, rather than you've got a bit more freeform for. But yeah, these people generally will talk about their experience of growing up with certain computers, certain computer games, and then we'll have may have interviews with developers of certain games, old games, and they will have a sort of their own advertising slot built into the video, but again, YouTube will add extra videos on top of that, which can't do anything about. But yeah, it's interesting to see how they structure their content.
Now, Mark, we are at an hour and 12 minutes and 35 seconds. So I think we should end this here, and then before we do, I'd like for you to kind of give yourself a plug, let everybody know how they can get in touch with you and everything. I know you did it at the beginning, but it's traditional to do it at the end. So.
Oh yeah. Anyways, to get a hold of me or any of my shows, look up Dragus Productions at gmail.com. DREAGUS Productions, all one word, at gmail.com. My shows stream twice a week, Sunday nights and Wednesdays. You can check me out on most social media sites, but YouTube.
Man, I even love how you do that. Like, you've even got that whole accent down. Like, the moment I said to do that, bam, it just clicked right in. You know what I mean? I love it.
It's second nature. That's second nature, you know.
Yeah.
Because the views expressed and the opinions given.
Right. So,
But before coming on, I actually was working on disclaimers.
No, I'm willing to buy a lot of things, but it's like I had an issue with karma when we first started all this stuff, because Jaffe does that shit on his show all the time. He like throws up these disclaimers, and I'm like, you know what, dude? If anybody is dumb enough to come on my freaking channel wanting medical advice, then freaking they get what they deserve. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna freaking get on here and put a disclaimer on every time. You know what I mean? So.
Oh, here's the thing about disclaimers. The only time you need one is if you're on radio or multiple platforms.
Yeah.
If you're on multiple platforms, it's a good idea to do that. Just CYA, all right? There's nothing more that you can do but that, all right? And that's the best thing you can do, especially because each platform has a different term of service. Same goes for radio stations, because, you know, what you talk about might not be what they like, but they'll keep it because it brings numbers. Mm-hmm. All right? Unlike certain platforms that I won't mention, you know, that'll just ask you for no reason. But anyway, or wait over a year and say, oh, you know, by the way, you know, I'm like, what do you mean, by the way? There should be, you know, some grace on that too. You know, if
ethics.
If you rape someone, there's a, you know, a time, you know, you could get away with it after a certain period. You know, like, come on now, you can't do that with, you know, this other stuff.
Yeah.
Come on, get out of here.
That's right. So with that, we're going to go ahead and freaking end the show, unless Mark wants to say something pretty to you.
I'll say one last thing. Okay, here are the 4 shows that I do and I produce right now. Censorship Sucks, Roundtable Radio Show, Sunday Night Edition. Every Sunday night. And then on Wednesdays, we have Censorship Sucks Roundtable Radio Show Wednesday edition. It does interviews. After that is Paranormal Intelligence Agency with Jack Carey. And last but not least, the all-new Cafe Enigma on Wednesday nights, which may change soon.
All right. And I always say this because I've been noticing a lot of people forget to, but you can find him on Skype. Okay. And I believe you have one on Discord too, right?
Yeah, my Discord isn't so popular.
But it is there.
Yeah, I do have Discord. It's under Dragus Prod.
Okay.
I have 2 of them there, so join both my Discords. So, you know, I'll welcome you there quicker than Skype. Skype is mostly business for radio and video streaming, okay?
And if anybody wants to get in touch with you, they can come through frickin' my Skype, and I can contact you, I guess. And
yes,
you can even contact them right there on my Skype channel. So just do the @ and he can get in direct contact with you through frickin' Tech Talk. And also all the other stuff that I have going on. So I'm glad that you was here, man, and this was a very good interview. I really think you did a real good job on this. And,
Well, thanks. It's been a while since I've actually got to do things like this, and I don't mind. I like coming in and giving it the way
well, that's why
Yeah,
I wanted to.
you know.
That's why I wanted to steer you away from the paranormal and the conspiracy stuff, because I know
Yeah.
you don't get too many chances to come in and actually talk about your career and radio and stuff like
Oh
that.
yeah, I've actually had celebrity shows too, where we've had people like Leon Hendrix is on, and that's Jimi Hendrix's brother.
Mhm.
We've had lots of different. When I produced Debbie Perkins,
Mhm.
I produced her for probably 15, 16 years, something like that, and we've had all sorts of actors, cartoonists, artists of all types on that show. And I could probably do a book just off her show. I'm surprised she isn't doing one. She might. And if she did, I'll be like, yeah, go ahead. Just put the label on there and just give me credit. I don't care if you have the money or not from it. Just give me the credit. That's all.
I've got all of that beat because what I've got the great Mark Wojtazsek from Dregas Production. So
Yeah.
see, so that's cool with me. With that being said, I am going to go ahead and end the stream, and I welcome you back anytime. You're always welcome on here. I say
Sure.
that.
It'll be great coming back. It's just probably me in a nutshell. A really general overview of what I've done and where I've been. If one day something might come up and we're talking and we'll get into something onto a topic and be like, yeah, back in the day when I was doing radio on this show,
Yeah.
we talked about that about 6 or 8 years ago, and the dude was saying this, and I'm like,
All right.
yeah, I can see it. Things like that do come up, and especially with radio and talk, and that's fine. I'm all for it, and I like cross-platforming, whether it's my shows or folks that I'm good with, like you. Want to bring your people in with mine, and same way back. That networking in radio is a must. I didn't say that to the other people, but
Yeah.
that's something that that's something you learn over the years. And believe it or not, radio is very cliquish. Very cliquish. There's groups in there. I mean, like, oh my God, if you're in with one group, you're out with another, and that's the difference between getting on a station or not. At times, yeah. Even with the independents, they're very. I would not. The independents are pretty aggressive. Okay, so some of them will pull together. All right, and they might have a local group. All right, within their state or where they're at, and others are, It also depends on their politics too, of who's running their deal.
Yep. Well, with that, I'm going to go ahead and end this, and we will talk again later. I appreciate you being on, and thanks for showing up. It's been
I'm
great.
sorry I missed the first time, but I appreciate you giving me a chance to come back. Thanks. And if not, I was going to work my way back in and just weasel in, do something like this as well.
That's not. Come on, dude. Seriously. Like you're great, dude. Everybody knows you're great. You're awesome.
I really appreciate that. Thanks.
You're always welcome back with me anytime. I mean, no matter what show it is, you're welcome on there. So.
Well, thanks, Roger. Do you want D Spot when we come back and do Cafe Enigma That might come open soon. I'm just teasing. But we're all there, right?
Don't let him hear this.
You did click the end button, right?
Not yet.
You edit that, right?
Yeah, sure, we can do that.
Make sure you edit that, right?
Okay.
I